recent demolition of a tent camp has brought the homelessness situation to the forefront here in our city. A recent city council, the city of Moncton, has committed to spending $20,000 to help emergency shelters in the city. A stranger to none of this, Charlie Burrell, the Humanity Project founder, is here to tell us what he's been seeing on the streets. Charlie, thanks so much for coming in and chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, I mean, this has been it's an issue that is now in the limelight. It's in the news, but I imagine that in your eyes, this is not a new problem. You've kind of seen this on the horizon for a while now.
Yeah, it's we've had an increase in homelessness in our city for quite some time due to a lot of affordable housing being torn down and nothing new being built, no new infrastructure. I kind of seen it coming, and the thing is, that kind of amazes me really is people act surprised, like they didn't know winter was coming or that you know, the snow and the cold was on its way. But really, it's poor planning. It's poor planning on the city's part and on to make sure that these people are taken care of, because approximately right now there's, I would safely say, 120, but I know there's more than that, people sleeping on our streets tonight. People
out in the cold, sleeping on the streets, something that you've been seeing. And just to remind people, the Humanity Project, you guys feed about how many people on a daily basis? On
a daily basis, I say we feed about 100 to 150. Tonight we fed 167 people. So the numbers go up and down depending on the time of the month. And as times get harder through the middle of the month and seniors have a harder time, for instance, choosing between their food and medicine, we'll have a lot more seniors and a lot more families coming in, stuff like that. So the number's always changing. But on average, I'd say between 100 to 150.
Wow. On a real, like, local kind of level, I mean, you get to see this so up close. What are you seeing, like, right now? Do you see it as you kind of alluded to it, but in a sense that it's a problem that is growing? Do you see it curving off? Obviously, sometimes in summertime we get more, and wintertime we get less. What do you see at the very up-close street level?
Well, I can tell you this, I'm the crazy guy that runs around town telling everybody that we're going to end hunger and homelessness. And I truly believe we will. And I truly believe we can do it by working together as a community. Will homelessness only continue to get worse in the future? Absolutely, 100% it will, if we don't fix some of the current issues that we have today in our society and we don't start addressing some of the root causes. Like, you know, there's a huge lack of access to addiction services in our city. There's a huge lack of access to mental health services. There's a huge lack of access to affordable housing. You know, these are some things that we really need to look into and figure out solutions to some of these problems and move forward. You know, not talk about it, but talk about it and then go forward with action.
And I know this is a loaded question. It's a short question, but there's a lot behind it. And it's simply, is the city doing enough? And the caveat to that is that generally homelessness is more of a provincial and federal government issue. It's kind of their mandate. But the municipal government still have a certain responsibility or role to play in this.
Well, I would say no. I would say no, simply because of the fact that the other day I had asked our mayor for a breakdown of the amount that was spent in our city on certain services, nonprofit, stuff like that. And just off the top of my head, I probably wouldn't be far off. There was, on average, I think it was $450,000 that is put in every year to organizations in our city that directly work with people that are in poverty situations or that in some sort of situation where they need help. That's all different organizations throughout our city. But when you look at the other numbers that go into art and culture, there's almost a 2-to-1 ratio of what we're putting into art and culture in our city compared to what we're putting into social inclusion and issues concerning poverty. I think, you know, I'm all for making Moncton the best city in the world. I hope that should be our goal. That's what we should be pushing towards. I love this city. But I think it starts by taking care of our people. I think once we start taking care of our people first and we put them first, you know, that's how our city will really grow and become diverse and grow into a great city in this country.
Kind of bring in a little bit more balance, essentially.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to, you said, you know, doing this, and one thing I've learned is it's a lot of finger pointing. A lot of finger pointing. It's a lot of, You talk to the municipal government and they say it's a provincial or it's a federal. You talk to the province, they say it's federal. You talk to the federal government and they point their fingers back both at the province and the municipality. To me, it's all of our problem. It's in all of our mandate. It's something, these are people that live here in our city. We should be taking care of them. There's no reason not to. I think the time for finger pointing and saying, you know, it's this person's problem, basically is what you're saying. No, it's all of our problem. And I think it's on every one of us to band together, to work together, to find solutions to some of these problems. I think that's how it will truly be done. It won't be done by finger pointing and saying, you know, this isn't our issue. It's all of our issue.
Well, I mean, to your point, it was interesting to see that 2 city councillors actually left the Social Inclusion Committee recently because of this, because they felt like there wasn't enough traction on the homelessness issue, just as it was kind of coming to a head. So in a way, it kind of proves your point that there's a lot of talking, but not enough action, not enough boots on the ground. Let's figure this out.
I can tell you this, and I can say this as a fact. We fed people out in a parking lot for over 200 days. It was absolutely horrible. Logistically, it was a nightmare. It was hard. It was very hard to do without a proper kitchen and a proper home to feed them in. And we raised enough money from people in our community in 4.5 months to buy a home for our community that we could treat people with love, dignity, and respect. And I know had we sat around and waited to fill out paperwork and wait for grants and wait for the government to help us, we're a year later and we would have still been standing in that parking lot today. The real power for change comes by people working together, regardless of what color in government you represent or what party you're associated with. I think we can all agree that nobody should be sleeping out on the streets. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that nobody should be going hungry. So don't let our political differences separate us on issues that we all know should be fixed and that we can all certainly work together on.
You know, real humanitarian issues, essentially.
100%.
Okay, so the big question: will you shelter people this winter at your facility?
I think the real question is, do I want to shelter people this winter at our facility? It's a lot of work. It requires basically taking all of our tables and chairs down at night after supper service. Like you said, we feed 150 people, taking those all, putting them away, cleaning up the floor, setting out all the cots, getting everybody in, and then staying there overnight. The next morning, getting up, cleaning up all the cots, sleeping bags, everything, putting them back into storage, pulling out all your tables, chairs, having it ready, your dining hall cleaned, and then still having the volunteers that are able to come in and have that meal ready every day for 5:30 or 5 o'clock, because every day there's 100 to 150 people showing up. That can't change. Do I want to do it? Absolutely not. I know that it's going to take 4 months of my whole winter. It's going to take a lot of dedication from myself and the other volunteers. It's going to take all of our personal time to make this happen. But do I want I didn't want to feed people in a parking lot either, you know, but it's something that had to be done. Do I want somebody to freeze to death out in a snowbank this winter? No, absolutely not. So that it means that if it takes personal sacrifices from myself or some of our volunteers, or sacrifices on behalf of our organization to make sure that nobody dies this winter out in the cold, then it's something we're gonna do, you know, and I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, and good on you for doing it, because you're absolutely right. You guys have some of the best volunteers I've ever seen working over there feeding people, and that's true. I mean, we've spent a lot of time there, and now to go back to them and say, I need a little bit more from you guys to help to help shelter these people. It's not an easy ask because they're already doing such great work. Yeah. But at the end of the day, like you say, if that's the difference between somebody freezing in the cold that night or staying in a warm place, you have to kind of do it.
You know what gets me is most nights, like I close up and we feed people and I go to walk out of that building, and there's somebody that's either homeless and we're trying to house, or they're waiting to try to get their ID to get their housing, or whatever the issue is. And they're there all day. They're scrubbing the toilets, they're cleaning the floors, they're putting stuff away, they're folding clothes for other homeless people, they're helping us with whatever it needs. And at the end of the day, I walk out those doors and I lock up the door and I look at one of our friends and I say, okay, I'll see you later. And they say, yeah, I'll see you later too, Charlie. And I get in my car and I back out and I drive down the street. And as soon as I look over, I see them walking down the street with an umbrella and basically a stool to try to go find a place to stay warm. And that breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because I can't take everybody home with me. And it breaks my heart that in today's day and age, in 2018, we still have people that have no choice but to sleep outside. And I don't think that's fair.
Well, Charlie, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. We are lucky to have a guy like you in our community to doing this. You guys do some great work at the Humanity Project. Thank you so much for coming and talking.
Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate it.